My name is Lisa Renee DeBenedictis. I'm the author of Short Skirts and Shorter Stories, Musings on Life, Love, and Lust. For many years I was a screenwriter. I helped create the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the tenets of the museum, and the foundation tenets. And I grew up in Northeastern Ohio, which is a trajectory that a lot of screenwriters follow. A lot of people like Steven Spielberg and Coppola have their roots in Northeastern Ohio. I think it's because the weather is so bad that it drives you to create. And I have always kind of worked in storytelling. So I made documentaries. I worked in Switzerland for a while. I made classical music videos, kind of like the earliest MTV videos for classical music. Then I went to New York and I helped create the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I thought I was going to be a foreign war correspondent, but somehow or other I became a sitcom writer. So I started in New York on a sitcom called Kate and Allie, and then there was a writer's strike. So then I went to Los Angeles and I started in pilots, which is kind of the opposite of what most people do. Most people get on staff and then later on but we started writing pilots for a gentleman who had created a show called Growing Pains. The first pilot that we ever got paid to do was called Moscow Days. And it was about an American business entrepreneur that goes to Moscow and opens up kind of like a Pizza Hut chain. And then we got on staff of a show called Mad About You. I used to write with my former writing partner was my ex-husband, who's from New York, so I met him in New York. He wanted to be a novelist, and there's no money in novels, really, so that's why we became television writers. And so we were a young married couple from New York, so it transitioned really nicely onto a show called Mad About You. Danny Jacobson and Paul Reiser created and wrote the pilot to Mad About You, and we saw it and just fell in love with it. So that was the first staff job that we had. We had done episodes of things before that. And then we just kept working in that field. So I worked on a lot of shows. Dream On is a show that I'm very proud of as a credit because I worked with some of the best writers. David Crane and Marta Kaufman created that. They created a lot of shows. Marta's just created a show that's on the air now with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. She created Friends, of course. And we worked on a show called Ellen. We worked on Dave Chappelle. A lot of different shows, and then we also wrote some films in between, and I've done all sorts of stories for even the internet. Joe Pantoliano is a good friend, so we did some of the first kind of internet episodes or webisodes, I guess they're called now. So I've always kind of worked in the story format. So even if I write, my business writing is always kind of story-based, because I think going way back to primitive times, the essence of storytelling is something that's human and it crosses, barriers. Sometimes comedy can be subjective, but basic things like a domestic comedy can play in India as well as they can play in Italy as well as they can play in the United States. There's certain things like sibling rivalry or mother-daughter, headbanging that are kind of universal, I think. And my father is second-generation Italian, and there's something about that kind of is relatable to people, I think. And storytelling is something that was kind of revered in my family. People would sit at the table and tell stories about their day or their adventures or their school, and humor is something that's really honored in my household.